Now it is my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Burlington, Miro Weinberger.
Good morning, everyone. It is exciting to have this conference back in Burlington. We love that this event takes place here and that you all come and join us here for this event. And we appreciate the leadership of EAN and Champlain College for hosting this conference. We are gathered this year at a moment for the climate emergency that is really quite visceral. I think we're all feeling it. We just are days after this incredible climate strike that in Burlington resulted in the largest crowd for a protest, a rally that I've seen in my 7.5 years. We are gathered just 3 days after the Burlington City Council declared a climate emergency, joining, I think, something like 1,000 cities around the world that have made that declaration and tried to bring attention to the urgency of what's happening to the planet. In that declaration by Burlington and these many other municipalities around the world, I think you see a sense that cities have a role to play in this major transformation of society that we need to achieve over the next little more than a decade, by 2030, to achieve some of the to avoid some of the worst impacts of climate change. And Burlington's history provides, I think, a lot of optimism that that's right, that cities can make an impact here. And it is, I'm going to talk a little bit about our newest chapter of that. I'm going to review that history briefly, talk about the newest chapter, which is what we're calling the Net Zero Energy City chapter, and kind of offer it as a interesting additional route. Much of what we just heard from the Lieutenant Governor, I agree with and think we need that kind of bold action at the state, and these kind of major shifts in the way we regulate and we tax. What is interesting about the Burlington model, I think, in contrast to that, is that it offers an example of progress within the world as it is today, and that we are actually making real progress today. And so let me get to what I mean by that. So first of all, Burlington, we are at the beginning now of what I would call the third chapter of Burlington's real pioneering and innovative leadership on energy policy and on climate change. The first chapter began with an $11.3 million energy bond back in 1990. That has led over the years since then to approximately $70 million in energy efficiency investments in the city of Burlington, into Burlington businesses and homes. And as a result, Burlingtonians save $12 million annually on electric bills. We, in fact, consume less electricity today as a community than we did in 1989. Despite population growth, despite the proliferation of different devices that we consume electricity with, we actually consume less today than we did in 1989. If the country had followed that lead, we would have, how many is it, Darren? How many less coal plants in the country? 200 less coal plants would have been built. It's a very different trajectory than much of the rest of the country. The second chapter took place during the years 2004 to 2014. We made a decision as a city to stop purchasing power from the Vermont Yankee nuclear facility. We made a decision to reorient the focus of our power purchasing towards renewables. We're only 25% renewables at the time, but by the time Neil and I got to kind of step into our roles, Neil as the general manager of the Burlington Electric Department, and me as mayor in 2012, we were able to get over the final finish line to getting to 100% renewable generation, and became the first city in America to do that in 2014. we weren't quite prepared for what the reaction nationally and internationally would be to that milestone. And it resulted in, there must have been 30 plus film crews, newspaper crews that came through Burlington trying to understand the Burlington story. And what I came away from that understanding is that the two fundamental elements of that achievement had been political will and technical expertise at the Burlington Electric Department, this outstanding 100-year-old public utility. That realization, having to talk about that so much, caused us to double down and really think about where we go from here. And that's how we hit upon this idea of becoming a net zero energy city, not just in the electric sector, but in the thermal and transportation sectors as well. And on Monday, after a couple, a week ago Monday, after a couple of years of really grappling with this and working with some of the best consultants in the country, the Burlington Electric Department under the leadership of current general manager, Darren Springer, and there's a big BED team here today that has been a big part of this, and there we have commissioners here today. I'm thankful to all of them for their work on this. A couple weeks ago, we announced this net zero energy roadmap that would have us getting to net zero across all three of those sectors by 2030. As I think anyone active in EAN realizes, by going beyond electricity, this takes us into the areas that we have really struggled as a state, the ground transportation and thermal sectors. And we've actually seen some progress in the thermal sector, but rising emissions in the ground transportation sector. The exciting thing to me about the roadmap, a few exciting things. One is, for the first time, I think we really have a vision with this roadmap about how we overcome those challenges. It is fundamentally, in large part, a vision of strategic electrification of those sectors, of moving towards electric vehicles and moving towards cold climate heat pumps to replace the current technologies. What I find exciting and optimistic about the plan is that in what the roadmap says is that those technologies which are widely commercial available today are cost effective today, and they are likely over this 11-year period to become even more cost effective. Let me give you an example of that. Looking at transportation, the roadmap shows that we can get 20% of the distance we need to be by switching drivers from gasoline vehicles to electric vehicles. And when we do that, there will be a net savings. We'll actually make money as a community. And, I think that still surprises people, takes people off guard. We've gotten so used to thinking of EVs as this, out of reach technology, but you can see it in the incentives the Burlington Electric Department is now offering. You can, if you can buy an electric vehicle today, Burlington Electric will add $1,200 or $1,800 if you come from a low or moderate household to the purchase of that vehicle. When you go to recharge your electric vehicle, if you do so in off-peak hours, we only charge you the equivalent of 60 cents a gallon using the Burlington Electric Department's one of the first in the nation special off-peak rates for recharging. The couple other elements of this roadmap, I want to be clear about it. It wasn't just a roadmap, it wasn't just a visioning exercise, a vision statement. The release of it was accompanied with about more than a dozen new initiatives, incentives that mean that today Burlingtonians have opportunities that didn't exist just a month ago. Let me just talk about a couple other ones. We're offering a incentive for the purchase of used electric vehicles for the first time. We're getting down to the granular but impactful level of offering the one smart charging cord we have found in the world for level 1 charging that will mean that people who don't want to spend the $1,200 to $1,500 to put a level 2 charger in place can take advantage of our 60 cents off-peak rate. We also, as part of this roadmap, we have released a call to, and we are working towards putting new regulations in place that will require all rental apartments in Burlington to be brought up to modern energy efficiency weatherization standards. So I'm going to leave you with this. What's the significance of this roadmap? I mean, other than the financial benefits, what is it, for this community? I think the take-homes from this are, one, no matter what the city of Burlington does, we're going to be as aggressive and progressive and innovative as we can, but it is going to take the action of Burlington households and businesses to actually get to a decarbonized society through this route. It is going to take Burlington property owners, business owners, to consider these issues and take action. And I know some of the people in this room can help with that. Second point, I do think the Burlington model offers a route to a decarbonized future that has application for other communities in Vermont and elsewhere. And then finally, what is really clear in the roadmap is that localities can play a huge leadership role. Cities can play a huge leadership role, but it will require state policies such as taking action on carbon pollution pricing and federal action to fully get there. So with that, we got a lot of work to do. Thank you for being here in Burlington to talk about it. And we look forward to continuing to partnership and move the state forward in the years ahead. Thank you.